May earth give us fruits so that we can juice our bodies and flow within the suffering so that we never forget the miracles. May we be deeply embarrassed so that we recognize comfort's smile and bathe in insecurity so we fully embody self-love. May we starve and deprive so that we can consciously bond with our meals and be stripped of all we sense so we can dress up in abundance. May we scream deeply into the darkness to bring lighthouses to the oceans and cry in unity with the storms so that we can respect the flood's intentions. And throughout it all, forever, may we lock hands and eyes so that we never forget the beauty that is right in front of us. I am Heath Armstrong, and this is Never Stop Peaking.
It's depressing like a dimple on your butt. If you behave, you'll get a nickel you can spend on stuff. And in time, you'll get a dime if you impress your boss. So you can buy some more stuff just to numb your thoughts. You've been a space-driven higgity hunk of me since birth, flying through the universe on a rock called Earth, composed of stardust with an emotional gut, while you letting conformity slam you up the butt. If not one fucks, two fucks, red fucks, blue fucks. You can play duck hunt and wait around for luck, or you can rent a big truck and drive your vision, build a palace to the moon while your schmuck friends piss their pants. Get up and dance, rocket ship that booty, take a chance for your freedom, miggity milk that booby, cause when the fear attacks, it tries to crack what you're thinking. Fuck no, you'll never stop peaking.
Skidamarinkity dinkity dink, a skidamarinkity doo. You are listening to Never Stop Peaking. I am Heath Armstrong. What it do? What's up? This episode's got me on like a super channeled spiritual high because it's about plant medicine. So stay tuned shortly for that. But I want to go deep. I want to go deep on some thoughts. I kind of channel something out here to you about what are we doing here, you know? Wanting to be loved, wanting to discover self-love, because a lot of the topics in this conversation about plant medicine and Iboga, ayahuasca, it all comes back down to self-love. If you were yourself wrapped in a collection of white feathers like the angel that you are, you probably don't know that those feathers are there, but they're there, and they look sexy. They look good on you for show. And you were laying completely encapsulated in the bed of the gods, which you are, where divine minds sleep to restore the energetic shield of collective conscious celebrations in defying the unconscious collective's inevitable path of explosive reset. To basically remind our amnesiac human minds that the earth, it's not under ownership. The ocean is not for sale. The mountains are free for sharing the best views. The farms exist for harvesting new life, not money. The Great Mother provides, but how do we receive? How do you receive? How do I receive? She gives limitlessly, yet we fight over ownership of finite pride. She loves unconditionally, yet we close our hearts and suck on greed's lingam. Because we stamp patriarchal prices onto all that we have been gifted, we are inevitably bartering our existence for the ultimate cost, a cataclysmic disarray that screams mercy at the foot of the almighty universe. In selfishness, you sacrifice the self. In selflessness, there is no sacrifice, because when you detach from ego that thrives off ownership, all that is left is unconditional love for your immortal self. Removed from the illusions of physical sensations and suffering, harmonizing with the never-ending fruits of all creation. And that, my friends, that is the kind of love that seeds purpose, eternal appreciation, a planet of salvation, exactly as the mother intended it to be. So what happens internally when you allow the energies of the world to flow deeply with charge? Fill your belly through the purest of passages. It may seem clear sometimes, maybe it seems colored. It may seem relaxing. Other times it might seem uncomfortable. But what it seems is just an illusion of sense. It's a kiss from the physical plane. It's the space where your awareness seems to favor something. If you close your passage to sense, what becomes? The highest of dreams? The astral experience? Unity with the truth? By removing the reliability of sense, you no longer show weakness to the demands of desire. Let it all go and it will be done. Silence is the language of the spirit. Fasting is the food of the spirit. The spirit sleeps in its own awakening. The spirit observes what never existed. While senses pour into desire's finest goblet, God pours into God. And you, my friend, are holding the cup. Nothing else is relevant. I'm so excited to share this interview today because Levi Barker, who is one with running a wellness retreat in Costa Rica called Iboga Wellness Center, we had an amazing conversation. And it talks a lot about energy. It talks a lot about self-love. But Levi is a remarkable Iboga provider. And after being addicted to opiates through a large chunk of his 20s and 30s, he discovered this life-altering, transformational, and healing power of this plant medicine, Iboga. A plant medicine that is native to, I think it's Gabon, Gabon, and Cameroon areas in West Africa, Central Africa. And in this interview, we explore kind of the sacred and ceremonial use of Iboga for personal transformation and healing, as well as its role as an unmatchable tool in opiate recovery and ongoing integration. We also cover a little bit about history, science, and common uses of the Iboga root and one of the alkaloids in Iboga, which is Ibogaine, which a lot of you might have heard more commonly. But one of the quotes that Levi said in the interview was, if we can get things moving on an energetic level, it helps us manifest what we want in our life on a physical level. And I think that's the goal with these plant medicines, is to move stuff around, to release these blockages that we're holding on to and fill the space with stuff that conducts our higher energy and doesn't suppress it. And all of the introduction that I was talking to you about is about the greater collective consciousness and state of the world. You know, if we can shift the energy in the way that we focus on sense and the way that we focus on self-love internally, that floods out into the world, into a bigger picture. It helps on a much grander scheme than we could ever contemplate in our own minds, consciously, but maybe not subconsciously. So, Iboga is an intelligent medicine. It does not stop teaching. And as if you were entering into a portal to a waking dream state, it is common for experiences with Iboga or Ibogaine to dive deep internally, externally, highlighting the importance of self-love at a very core level. So I'm going to dive right into this interview with Levi. All of you, share this with people that you think may need to hear it. I really appreciate it. I'm getting this thing transcribed, so you'll be able to read it and share the textual information. If you go to heatharmstrong.com/podcast, you can get to episode 24. Check out contact information to get a hold of Levi. The website is ibogawellness.com. It's an incredible thing. I cannot stress how life-changing experiences with these types of intelligent medicine can be. And it's extremely important to be in the care set and setting of people who really know what they're doing. And Levi and his crew are some of those magical people. So let's dive right in. I am at Heath Fist Pumps on Instagram. All the show notes, again, heatharmstrong.com/podcast. This is on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all the good places. Share the links with your family, friends. Leave a review if you want to help donate money to the Help Foundation in Uganda. I'm heading out there here in a couple weeks. Every review, I donate a little bit of money to them. And then, just share the love, and let's dive right in. Here we go. Come on, everybody, let me hear that beat. Come on, everybody, let me hear that stickety, stickety, rickety, dickety beat. Levi, I am excited to have you on. This podcast is mainly about transformation of the self and moving forward to strengthen the transformation of the collective consciousness in a way. And I've been kind of really giddy to talk to you for a while because I'm very much a rookie when it comes to Iboga, and I'm fascinated beyond explanation about plant medicine and sacred ceremonial healing journeys, especially combating things like opiate addiction or some of these big mental or childhood trauma blockages that we can get inside of us, and the way that these different plant medicines interact and create space for new growth and kind of the discovery of miracles and purpose that we already have within us. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. And thank you for the work you're doing and spreading healing and allowing people to, know there's tools out there for themselves.
I try to do a little bit that I can, but I honestly think from a bird's eye perspective that I'm probably, there's something much bigger, laying out there that I'm moving slowly into. And I just am very thankful to get to converse with people like you and learn about journeys and transformation from that angle. So I appreciate it. I've spent some time with Mother Ayahuasca, never with Iboga. From my understanding, and this is just me reading, hearing things, and I would love for you to kind of explain it more in depth if you can. Iboga is a full root, right? And it's full of alkaloids, but it's different from just Ibogaine, which is actually just one of the alkaloids in the root. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and that's native to Central Africa. Is that right? Like the pygmies?
Yep, West Central Africa.
Is that what countries are over there? Gabon, does that sound right? Cameroon?
Yep, that's it. Yeah, Gabon, Cameroon, the Congo, and trying to think there's maybe one other little country where it grows natively.
And so you're working with Iboga Wellness, and I'm guessing that you were probably doing work with the whole root system. What's the difference? Because I feel like all the stuff that I run into is usually just using just Ibogaine. And I want to I know I've read what the difference between those two is, besides one being the active or the alkaloid in the root, but are there other things that are beneficial in using the whole root system?
Sure. So yeah, there's 12, 13 active alkaloids in Iboga. Typically Ibogaine, accounts for about 60% of those alkaloids, but there's definitely other alkaloids doing things, from say a scientific point of view with addiction, like Ibogamine, Ibogaline. I can't remember all their names. We don't get so much into the science, but what I do know is in nature, living things have a spirit, and within those spirits or within nature, there's keys and direction to living life here, being a human here on this earth. So we work with the full plant as nature produces it to get what we want out of life. So you can definitely have a full-on spiritual experience, I believe, with Ibogaine as well. But from what I've heard, I've never had Ibogaine, but from what I've heard, Iboga is a fuller kind of experience.
Yeah, including the whole plant, obviously, it brings a whole new spiritual realm to it. There's a reason that it's all together, I would say. So I totally get that. There's I feel like Ibogaine is used is it used as a stimulant at low doses?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about
Yeah.
that? Yeah. It's just
Yes.
completely different from the ceremonial use of it though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it can be a stimulant. And even, say even in Gabon, hunters will use Iboga in small doses for stamina, just to heighten their senses, make them more aware. And so it's almost like they're, microdosing Iboga just to, connect more with nature, be able to spot anything, because they're way out there, and it's not Gabon isn't known as that they haven't moved to agriculture, so it's really still a big hunter gatherer society for people that live outside the city. So yeah, for hunting, it's a big tool, and it does give you stamina. Like, so for us during ceremony nights here at Iboga Wellness, we take a small amount. And that gives us stamina to work all the way through the night, get a couple hours rest, and then work through the next day as well, to just take care of people, because it's a very long experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a longer experience than, say, I think isn't it one of the longest kind of psychedelic experiences that there is, if not isn't it last?
I believe so. I believe it is the longest. Yeah.
Yeah. Enduring. And yeah. So the pygmies were I guess they were shorter people. And I'm not sure, is there any history? I mean, obviously there's the myth of, I guess, the pygmies using it. And then before that, I've heard a story about, a porcupine eating the branch and then being consumed. And then the woman who consumed it having visions with ancestors and deities or whatever it may be. And then them being able to discover it that way. I'm sure there's probably multiple different stories like that out there. Do you know of any more deep history with this at all, just before we start diving into the benefits of the systems?
Yeah. Yeah. So the pygmies did discover Iboga, and they kept it secret for quite a long time, according to our teacher. So our teacher is his name's Moginda Mikola, and he's a 10th generation Bwiti shaman, and he's in Gabon now doing initiations for people. But yeah, what you were mentioning about the porcupine, a hunter went out to go hunting for his family, and he took back a porcupine for his wife, and she had the porcupine, and started getting, like you're saying, visions and insights and into things happening in the village and their life. And so they went back out where they caught the porcupine and noticed there was a shrub there with the roots dug up, where the porcupine had ate at the roots. And so they put two and two together, brought the roots back. And when they brought them back, there was a discussion within the tribe between who's going to eat it. And so the hunter guy didn't want to eat it, and neither did the chief of the village. And so the brave one to step up to be the second one was the chief's wife. And she had it, and a very similar thing happened. And so that was, the start of working with this medicine. And, what the pygmies realized through working with the medicine is they gained a lot of insight as to what it means to be human, what it means to be connected with nature. And so since the beginning, they've used Iboga as a tool to study life. And at some point, they shared Iboga with some of the neighboring tribes. And when they did that, then the original Bwiti does come from the pygmies, but then once it was shared with some of the neighboring people, they kind of took it and developed it, into their own thing. And so with our Bwiti, it's called Misoko Bwiti, and it primarily has to do with healing and using Iboga as a tool to study life. So this is, most likely there's no written history of this, but this is many thousands of years, most likely, that people have been using Iboga as a tool to navigate life. Because even back to the beginning of time, people still had to, manage their own thoughts. They had to learn how to treat themselves and others. And so, it's been happening for a long time. And the unique thing with Iboga is even way back with the pygmies, we're still human, even if we come from the West today. And the medicine just teaches us, gives us wisdom on how to approach life, how to navigate it. And so it's been going on for a long time. So when people come to Iboga Wellness, we share that wisdom that's been passed down from generation to generation. And in the Bwiti, we don't expect anybody to just take somebody's word for something. We know we need to learn through experience.
Yeah.
So when people have their Iboga experience, they're able to verify the things that we share with them and have their own connection with that.
It's kind of amazing. We like to think, I mean, as a whole of just in the Western world in particular, I guess, that we're the only ones that have ever dealt with like these thoughts or this personal trauma or being human. But if you do go back and read, is the most ancient text that you can find, it's the same type of philosophy and principle of what people are dealing with. And I like to read a lot of Seneca, and that's not even that long ago, but Seneca, the way that he describes things around him, it's like you would think you just walked out front and we're walking down the street. It's so similar. And so these types of medicines that were kind of removed, but I guess they were never really removed from certain areas of the world, but have disappeared or are just now being introduced in places that, people really need them the most. It's a very powerful and fascinating thing. It's a very magical and miraculous thing. And it's something that's extremely sacred. And as you were saying, it's not something that can be even explaining and talking about it in this podcast until someone actually has these experiences themselves. They can't fully be in one with it. And I was always fascinated about different other types of plant medicines, but until I actually experienced them, I couldn't really understand what that meant,
Sure.
And Iboga is kind of like a waking dreams type of experience, right? Where you're doing a lot of inward searching. Ayahuasca, I feel like, is more of like an explosion into the universe and the realms and cosmos. But I want to talk kind of in depth about the work that it can do with you. But first, I want to step back and kind of explore your personal transformation, just to get a backstory of how you arrived in this miraculous and caring position, which is sort of allowing you to share this gift in medicine with the world on the scale that you're doing. And just to hear how you're connected to it and how you found this in your journey.
Yeah, thank you. So I found Iboga from a long-term opiate addiction from my early 20s to early 30s. I had a lot of ups and downs, did every opiate you can imagine, from heroin, Suboxone, methadone, Percocet, and I could get away from a little bit, but could never fully get away. And so I have a really good friend who is really into plant medicine and knows more about different plants and herbs and their healing properties, and he grows a lot of them. And so I asked him, is there something that can help with this, with my problem of going back to opiates? And he said, yeah, Iboga. And from the first time I heard that word, I knew there was something there for me. One thing that we're really pay a lot of attention to in the Bwiti tradition is our curiosity. Whenever we're curious about something, and I didn't know that at the time, but I did have curiosity about it and looked into it a bit. And he told me, yeah, and I have some, and I'll send it to you. I'm like, wow, this is working out really well. Great. So he sent it to me, and at that time I was living in Nicaragua, and so I did a home detox myself. I definitely, for those listening, I don't recommend that, but I was at a point where, I was willing to do whatever it took to heal myself and make things better. And so he told me to take the whole bag of this Iboga, and it was like 50 grams, which is quite a huge dose. And I got through about half of it, and that was pretty much it. But that was that was enough to, what amazed me is within, an hour's time, the physical symptoms of opiate withdrawal went away. And,
Wow.
and so,
Wow.
yeah,
What's just a normal, just while you had mentioned that, what's a normal dose in a ceremony setting as far as, is it differentiate based on person? Or is there kind of a standard range?
yeah, it depends a lot on each person. And a lot of times, person's energy, just who they are, feeling them out is definitely one of the jobs of being an Iboga provider,
Okay.
because
Very similar to ayahuasca then.
yeah, you're not gonna overdose anybody, and it's not, they're in healthy shape. I mean, one thing I should mention with saying that, with healthy shape, um, with 99% of the physical problems or people having problems with Iboga that you hear about, 99% of those are people detoxing from different drugs.
Mm-hmm.
For psychospiritual reasons, if your heart's okay, it's very, very safe medicine. So with that, so each person has a different sensitivity to the medicine. So whenever people come here for the first ceremony they have with us, we always start everybody off with a dose that they can manage. And like I said, you can't give them too much, but what can happen is you can give somebody a lot of medicine and they're up for 3 nights in a row and can't sleep and have a really grueling journey, which is very healing. But we want them to get the full experience here of having 2 ceremonies and some integration time in between. And so everybody, some people need a whole lot, and it doesn't really have anything to do with your size or where you come from or if you're male or female. It's so it's definitely an art of learning to get enough medicine in somebody for them to go deep, do the work that they need, but then also come out of it and start integrating the teachings.
Well, thank you so much for answering that in such depth. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and so you took like 25 grams, which was half of the 50 grams he had sent you, and then you had started talking more into that story, and I interrupted you, so I'd love to hear the rest.
Oh, no problem. So it got, the opiate withdrawals went down. I then, essentially was laying in bed for about 3 nights, and got up to go to the bathroom a couple times, but I was laid out for a long time. And so when you go through a detox process, it's quite a bit. It's a different experience because the medicine is almost kind of going to war with the opiate. So it's not, there was definitely psychedelic or spiritual type things that happen, but it's really a physical thing. And so on the 4th night, I finally got a bit of sleep. By the 5th day, I was feeling a whole lot better and was able to come out of it and just realize that my body wasn't addicted to opiates anymore. And so that was
That's
big.
Remarkable.
No, it is amazing. But what I did realize is, all of a sudden I was cleaned out physically, but all of these emotions and just different feelings that I had been shoving down inside with opiates were very much coming up to the surface. So there was still a lot of work to do. And so about a year and a half later, after that experience, I actually met our teacher, Mogenda. He used to have a Iboga retreat spot called Iboga House here in Costa Rica. And I met him, and I was doing internet marketing stuff at the time. So I started doing that for him. And I heard that he was training people to work with the medicine. So once I heard that, I hit him up to see if I could do that. And I was surprised that he told me yes. And so that was the start of about 5 years of going back and forth and working with him and learning how to work with the medicine and manage people's experience. And it's an in-depth process. He's pretty, he's serious about this work. And so, for most people, it takes several years of working with the medicine consistently in order to kind of get his blessing to serve it.
That's beautiful. You touched on a couple things that are really important. One being the integration piece, because I've personally had, I don't know what it was about. I mean, I guess it's probably just sort of a all over the place type thing, but there were several people that were close in my life growing up, and even, some members in my family and very close people that were close to be like brothers that were just, consumed by heroin or opiate addiction. Some that have since been able to, recover and rebirth into a sober, beautiful life, and others that haven't so much. And one in particular, it's been over 20 years, I think, that he's been, addicted to heroin. And he did go through some Iboga transformation, and it was remarkable how immediately his color was back. Like this person that he was almost like this body walking around without a soul. All of a sudden the soul is back in, and it was like him again. And it was incredible to me. Like I just couldn't believe that had happened. Right. And he also followed that up with a series of ayahuasca ceremonies. But after the week or two that he was down there experiencing that, he had to come back. And there was where he had spent the time, there was no integration process after that. And to this day, he relapsed and hasn't been heard from. But that window of opportunity is like when he returned, and was just like, it was like he was back, and it was the most remarkable thing. But it's just as important to have that phase as it is to bring in this integration and to help people long-term. And Joey, my friend at the space down in Mexico, he'll tell you, like, he hasn't left there because no matter how much he's done, he knows that he still needs that integration. Right.
Yep.
So I think this is really important to what you've set up. And I know you had mentioned that I guess maybe you used to work with detoxing, but there's another stage to that. So would you mind covering kind of what you all do at Iboga Wellness, from opioid recovery to integration? What does the program kind of look like from a ceremonial or experience point of view? And then maybe afterwards talk a little bit about what it looks like from sort of a recovery and integration point of view, because I think people that haven't experienced this, maybe there's someone listening who has, wants to move forward, becoming in touch with the higher version of themselves. It's hard to find kind of exactly what goes on when you come to these ceremonies. What do you experience? What's the support like? And then what happens afterwards?
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, we used to do detox work, but when things like fentanyl started coming out, people coming off Suboxone, it just got, we're a shamanic healing center, so we're not like a medical clinic. It just got to be a little too much. Like we needed, we just would have had to hire like a nursing staff and more doctors, and so we recommend a lot of people go to an Ibogaine clinic, and then, if possible, come here afterwards and kind of work out the emotional part of themselves, whatever needs to be worked on there. And so we do get a lot of those people. We do get a lot, and for them and for everybody in general, just integration is such a huge part of it. It's really big. So maybe, I'll go through kind of what the experience is like here briefly, and then talk a bit about integration. So people come here for 7 nights, 8 days. They experience the medicine twice. And so we're kind of a happy medium of, Bwiti, Bwiti kind of shamanic setting, but then also, the comforts that we're used to in the West, like, bathrooms and beds and, going to Africa is a very different experience as far as that goes. So, I feel for most Westerners, that's the way to start, because it allows you, to be comfortable and be able to explore inward more. And so, yeah, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of one-on-one talks with people throughout the week, sharing the wisdom of the Bwiti with them. Um, Everybody has to get an EKG, and then we start ceremony at excuse me real quick. Sorry about that. Is my
No, you're good.
wife
What's an EKG real quick, just so.
or an electrocardiogram, like a heart stress test.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So there's one thing that, a couple of things that mostly happen with people, detoxing from drugs, but the heart can slow down quite a bit, or it can go up. Through the last 5 years, we've only had to turn away 2 people due to their EKG being a little funky. And so, yeah, people have never had heart problems or anything like that. Like they're fine. And so, yeah, we do that, prepare them a lot, and then we get started with ceremony, where we share, for a time about the Bwiti tradition, which is really just simple universal truths that are present in a lot of different traditions. But the way the Bwiti, I put it together to really encompass most or all parts of our lives, is very, very valuable. And like I said, the medicine teaches the same lessons, the same things. And so then we start serving the medicine. And
the
so,
same lessons, as in like multiple people have similar interactions with what they're learning separate from each other.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep, like, yep, they people learn the same things. In fact,
It's very cool, huh? Like all over the world, people can have these experiences and be connected to the same sort of teachers or spirits, or same type of deal with ayahuasca.
Absolutely. Yeah. With that, there's actually an interesting thing the Bwiti do if they're trying to figure something out that they're not 100% sure about. Because in the Bwiti, the biggest thing is the truth, knowing the truth of things. And so if there's something they're not sure about, what they'll do is they'll take 3 different people on 3 different nights that haven't spoken to each other and haven't interacted. They'll give each of them Iboga, load them up on Iboga, and send them out to get a question answered. And if all 3 of them come back with the same answer, they'll take that as the truth. That's
That's so amazing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we share that wisdom, and then people are able to experience that wisdom. So, we start serving the first medicine, which typically the first dose everybody gets is just ground up root bark powder off of a spoon. So it's almost like a wood powder. We'll serve that. And then we also we do an organic extraction process to make total alkaloid extract. And so that includes all the alkaloids of the Iboga plant, but just in a concentrated form. It can get tough to start getting a lot of root bark in your stomach. And and so this is just a little bit easier on the stomach for people to get down. And yeah, we give people time, let the medicine settle in. And on the first ceremony, there could be several hours where we're dosing, every hour and a half or so, until we get them to a good spot where they can get what they need. And then at some point during either the first or second ceremony, we do a Bwiti technique where we do a guided journey with people. And so that's essentially a process where we guide them during their Iboga experience to go in, meet their soul or meet their higher self, and ask questions to their own soul. Because like you mentioned earlier, the truth of things and all the answers are already in us. We go through life and we have different experiences, different things happen to us where the truth of things, or the truth of ourselves, can kind of get layered below, those experiences or emotions. So this is a way to get, right to your own soul and get those questions answered. And
it's kind of remarkable how things can shift in your physical and spiritual realm by moving those blockages around and freeing them up, even away from plant medicine. I did a 2-hour breathwork ceremony in Nicaragua one time.
Oh, yeah.
My whole life I had extreme acid reflux disease. I couldn't eat anything spicy. I couldn't drink anything carbonated. And in that breathwork ceremony, I got into a very psychedelic like state, but I released something, some sort of entity, something that was inside of me. I interacted with it. I talked to it. I released it. When I came out of it, all of those medical issues that I had were gone. I was immediately craving spicy food. And now I'm like, I was just in Bulgaria a couple weeks ago I was at a hot pepper farm, just eating the hottest peppers in the world, and it doesn't even bother me. Like, I like it. And I know from the outside, people are like, that can't happen. It's impossible. But I know that in that ceremony with that breathing, I released some blockages, and I've had other ones that have happened through ayahuasca. And I know that through such a magical journey with Iboga, I'm sure you see things like this all the time through the ceremony spaces, just transformation.
Sure. That's amazing, man. Amazing. Yeah, there's all kinds of different paths to get to where we need in life. And, so, whether it's breathing, ayahuasca, meditation, they're all to get us to the same place, so Iboga is just one of those tools. And yes, so go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when you're in the original, you were talking about going from like ceremony 1 to ceremony 2. In the first ceremony, do you ever have, because I know, and again, I haven't experienced Iboga, but the first time I did ayahuasca, I consumed probably more than anyone else there, yet ayahuasca wasn't ready for me, right? So I didn't even have I had no reaction to it the first time. And it was a hit to the ego, as in like, why am I not good enough to like work with this? Or like, am I too built into my spirit that I don't need it? Like, it was just these ridiculous thoughts going through my head. And then as I talked to the doctor and shaman, they're like, sometimes it needs to do work on your body before it wants to open up and all this stuff. And of course, the next ceremony that I went into, the very first little amount that I drank, I was the first person down and in that realm.
Yeah.
It was amazing how different it can be. And it's like such an intelligent force behind the medicine. And I imagine it's the same with Iboga. Do you ever see, I guess you probably see a wide variety of things that happen with people. And it is truly an art of the spirit to be able to work with each person individually to get them to that place or maybe understand. I was just wondering consciously, like, is Iboga is it a medicine that you're aware that you're in the space when you're on it? Like, you can come back and you're kind of aware that what's going on, or are you just completely out there and not aware in that first ceremony space, or maybe even the second one?
Yeah, no, you're very, very aware. And sometimes that catches people by surprise. Like, you were mentioning, ayahuasca can be very cosmic and, otherworldly. And Iboga can be as well. But most of the time you're very present on what's going on. You know where you're at, what's happening around you in, 99% of cases. And it's really, it's really a deep journey into your own consciousness. But if we come over and talk to people, they can typically hold, a short conversation and answer questions and things like that. So yeah, they're physically you can get off balance, if you move around a lot, depending on where you're at, you can bring on some nausea and stuff. So people typically just want to lay there. We encourage people to have their eyes closed. You can go deeper in, and that's typically where visions may happen. People are very aware.
Yeah, it's one thing that took me by surprise with ayahuasca too, is that I could, when opening my eyes, I could be directly back in my, aware self and interact and talk and even go use the restroom or whatever. Not something that I expected at all before I actually experienced it. I think it's hard for people to look at that because, a lot of us, maybe we grow up and we eat, a quarter of mushrooms or something, and we go into this other world that we can't control ourselves at all. And then we think that all these other psychedelics are similar to that, but the intelligence in these medicines is fascinating. And is there a purging process with Iboga?
Yeah, so people definitely purge in different ways. I'd say about 60% of people will have an oral purge. Um, a big one that people get with Iboga is they'll pee a lot, or some of them will sweat. Um, it's quite a bit rare that people have to go number 2 on Iboga. Usually it actually stops you up a little bit. So a lot of times the next day after Iboga, a lot of people won't do number 2. But yeah, so there's that sort of purging. Some people will kind of tremble and shake, especially if they're dealing with some sort of deep trauma. But it's not, it's not like a full, spasm, but they're just kind of twitchy and things like that. And so, yeah, people purge in different ways.
Yeah, shivering. And I just wanted to give people an overview of that because I feel like there's a misperception out there of how, Iboga or ayahuasca can be these like terrifying things that you get lost in and can't control. And it's not that case at all.
Yeah.
It's a very warm and healthy space to be in, especially in the right set and setting, which is what you guys seem to be providing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, we get a lot of first timers here. A lot of people that have, we get plenty of older people that have never, even smoked weed or done anything in their lives. But I would say, a good 20, maybe 25% of people, this is their first, say psychedelic or plant medicine experience.
Amazing. Cool. So you went through, I guess you were sort of talking about the transition from this first ceremony to the second, and there's a little bit of integration involved with that second one.
Yeah, so we call it, we go all through the night. When the sun rises the next morning, we get people up if they want to get up and take them to their bed. So we're all in the ceremony area, and each person has their own mattress. We'll get them back to their room, and we call that discovery day the next day. Sometimes during the ceremony, things, people will have mental detoxes or different things will be being moved around and released. And so sometimes it can be hard to put together what happened there. But as the medicine slows down and people get some alone, quiet time, that's a lot of times when a lot of the gifts of the medicine come. So we just encourage people just to be with themselves during that day. Typically, they won't sleep until maybe, later that afternoon, or for most people, not until the following evening. And so, yeah, that day, we know the medicine is going to teach them. So if they need support or they need anything, we're there for them. But, the medicine is the teacher for all of us here. So we know if they're just with themselves, they're going to get what they need out of the experience. And so, yeah, they get through that day. That can sometimes seem like the longest day of their lives for a lot of them. The medicine, makes people very present. So when you're very present, you're aware of what's going on, and time just seems to crawl by. And yeah, at some point that next night, they get some sleep. We go to have a beach outing, just get into nature with people, one of the local beaches here. We come back, and then we do a spiritual shower ceremony, which is a Bwiti cleansing ceremony, which is really powerful in itself. It doesn't involve Iboga, but it's a way to release things that you don't want and bring in things to your life that you do want. And so yeah, it's a way to connect with nature and call those things in and set those things in motion. We in the Bwiti, we view life or this world as being, kind of happening on two planes, like on a spiritual or energetic level, and also the physical level. And so if we can get things moving on the energetic level, it allows us to manifest the things we want in our life in the physical realm easier. And so typically after that night, everybody gets a good night's sleep, and then we kind of do the whole ceremony over again, another discovery day, and then another nature day. And throughout that time, there's one-on-one meetings, or a lot of times people are hanging out in these groups and just sharing about what's happening in their life, the realizations they're having. So that's very healing in itself. But like you said, integration, once they kind of leave this safe, sacred container is when you want to take the things that you've learned and actually apply them. And so we have quite a few different coaches that are Iboga specific that we work with. And so we recommend people work with those. We also have our own bi-monthly integration calls. So twice per month, it's just an open forum for people to come on and share if they like, or even just listen in. And, it's really good for people to hear people that have been 2, 3, 4 years out from having this experience and still, gaining insight, still working through life in a positive way. So it's helpful for a lot of the guests to know that this medicine doesn't stop teaching. That's probably one of the biggest differences with Iboga is it, after the experience, not only is it a long experience, but it actually stays in your body longer than other medicines. So, it actually, on a scientific level, metabolizes in the liver, and that there's a process that turns the medicine into nor-ibogaine, and nor-ibogaine slowly kind of drips out over several months. So as that, kind of drip and afterglow feeling is happening, just allows you to be very aware and conscious of what's happening in your life. It makes it very hard to hurt yourself. If you go back and do things that aren't good for you, it's going to just make you very, very aware of those things. So yeah, definitely, and we, while people are here, we definitely stress, it's time to make those changes and really, do the work that's needed. And people do. They can have, completely different life in 2 months, or they'll look back in a year and feel like they've aged for gain 10 years of wisdom about themselves.
It's remarkable, and obviously you've made that transformation yourself. When you view all of these, I don't want to call them patients as much as just like magical rebirthed human spaceships of stardust or whatever, as you view these amazing people that come down and go through your program, do you notice how the experience of Iboga changes their perception of, the why of life? Were there things that they were worried or stressed out before that no longer carry any importance whatsoever afterwards, even from your own perspective with your journey? And kind of on the flip side, what is often something that people, or I guess maybe, is it often something that you see that people took things for granted before, but now pay very close attention to the beauty of life and just the magic of existence, and it's the gratitude of all these things after going through the ceremony?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of times people come in thinking they have, this is my problem, and realize that that's not at all their problem. It gets down to a lower level. And yeah, we just had a girl here. We had a retreat in yesterday, and we had a girl here that really had like lifelong depression, and just growing up with her parents, they really instilled some deep belief systems into her about what life is and how she needs to act, and to really hold things inside and make it pretty on the outside. And so she had deep realizations on that, but also just, realizing her life isn't so bad. And she came around to appreciate, the life she does have, the simple things like friends and family, and, connecting with nature. And so, it's different for each person, but people, one of the big ones, especially coming from the West, is, we're almost prided on being really hard on ourselves, like, sacrificing your emotions to get things done or to be successful. And so a big one that a lot of people get is just how, what do they tell themselves? What's their internal dialogue like? And, in the Bwiti, we look at that as, what the things we tell ourselves, that our own soul or our higher self is listening to that. And, it can definitely get discouraged from wanting to help us if we're always just hammering ourselves. We look at our soul as a very, almost like a child, a very pure child. And so, you want to treat that well and be gentle with it. And so, yeah, man. Yeah, people have all sorts of realizations about, why they're, where they're at in life and why they're there and how they got there. And, but also more importantly, get a lot of insight into, what needs to change and yeah, just letting go of a lot of stuff. So many people follow, have things that have been following them around for years or their whole lifetime, whatever that may be, things from the past. And yeah, just, really caring about themselves enough to say, look, there's nothing left for me to learn here, and I'm just gonna let it go. And yeah, the just having that strength and caring for oneself enough to let things go is a big one for a lot of people.
Aho. Do you encourage people to come back again for more ceremonies after they leave? I know you're doing coaching calls and you're doing online check-ins and things like that. Is that something that's required or necessary with Ibogaine or Iboga?
That's different for each person. I would say over the last 3 years, we have been getting more people coming back, but I would say, 90% of people go on and live their life and, go and take the gifts they have and move forward. There's some people, that can certainly benefit from more of the medicine, and they come back to the medicine in a different place. And so just like with ayahuasca, the medicine doesn't stop teaching. It'll keep showing you things if you come to it. So it just depends on what people want. Iboga's not, excuse me real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
Iboga is not, anything like a miracle. It's a tool for people to use. And so, yeah, some people go back and start doing some of the same things and realize they need to check back in. And so, yeah, we get some repeat people, but yeah, it's a very individual thing.
Yeah, it's a relationship. It's a tool. Correct about that. I've heard from people that I know that have experienced Iboga, one of the things we were talking about earlier is how people have similar experiences with how, things that they encounter when doing it. And I don't know, not just on, I've heard this on podcasts, I've read this in books, and I've heard people that I know that have done it tell me that they often feel like they're interacting with almost like a computer screen where they're asking, it's like they go in and they can ask, I don't want to say Google, but you can ask a question and then you get the answer and then you do it again. And it's very much like you're in the grasp of a teacher who's answering your questions. And then it becomes sort of a battle of what's the next question you want to ask, because you start to get a little bit of resistance because you start to get deeper and deeper and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to ask that, but I do. Have you heard of anyone having that kind of experience? Just the whole, with the people that you've worked with, has anyone ever shared that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's pretty common with this medicine. The screen can take many different forms. Can be like a computer screen, or they could see themselves and they're having a conversation with themselves. But yeah, no, it's a very interactive medicine. But like you said, typically people need to cleanse energy and physically kind of detox from things before they get to that point, kind of like your first ayahuasca experience. So it's similar with Iboga. A lot of times that first one is just a deep cleanse of energy and physically moving things out of the way so that the medicine can go in deeper and really get to the core where you can answer those questions and get very direct answers back. And so when you're working with Iboga, typically the answers that you get are very, very, very concise. It's not like a long, drawn out answer. It'll, you ask the question like, how can I release my past? And it'll give you an answer that's very applicable, something that you can really take with you moving forward. So yeah, that's a big one with Iboga, is getting questions answered about our lives.
Do you think that with the way that it works, helps people work through trauma, that it all does kind of funnel back into this idea of self-love. You are love. I am love. I am of love. I am in love. It's just, I feel like everything that I do and work towards, it always ends up in that same spot of just teaching me again that it's just unconditional love at all times. And sometimes that's like, yeah, you got to feel that trauma. You got to feel that pain. You got to be in this to understand that. And, but ultimately, I feel like there's this universal thing happening that's teaching us that,
That's it, man. That's the big one with the self-love. Uh, Everything else is definitely manageable. So that is the big one. And everybody's worthy of that. In the Bwiti, we know that our life coming into this world and being able to have this human experience is the greatest gift that we can ever be received. And so us coming into this world, things had to happen exactly as they did back to the beginning of time for us to be here. If any one of those things would have shifted at all, we wouldn't be here. So, being here and being human is the greatest gift that we can ever have. And so with that, we need to value our own life, where our relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship that we'll ever have. And so we want to make sure that that's as good as it can be. And so a lot of people come in not really having that self-love, which is totally normal, and that's fine. But what they learn to do is they learn to do the little things for themselves, uh, forgiving themselves. Well, it's not a little one, but forgiving themselves. Managing their mind is a big one. Their own internal dialogue, and it's really a lot of practice. But those little things are what leads you to value your life. And then once you value your life, that's when you start cultivating the self-love. And so, yeah, the self-love is everything. And if a lot of people want to help other people, but unless you have that self-love, you're going to be really limited on what you can do for other people. So that is the end goal is the self-love. And
yeah, the world reflects what you are back to you, and if you can, it's a battle that we all fight, but the more that we can just love ourselves, the more that it floods out into the world. And if everyone's doing that, then it's just a completely different energy that's around. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we say Basi in the Bwiti for truth.
Basi.
Basi, yeah. That's
Basi.
it.
Truth. Universal truth and love. Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What I hope you don't mind me asking. Well, this is not that personal of a question or anything, but
sure,
for somebody who doesn't really believe in magic or manifestation or bringing visions to reality or dreams or being able to overcome their demons or resistance or whatever, if you could really say anything to that person or even the past version of yourself who was in that position, what do you think the message would be?
Yeah, for say somebody that really doesn't connect with spirit or
Right.
Yeah. So the only requirement with Iboga, just as it would be with other medicines, is to be sincere and wanting to help yourself and wanting to make your life better. And so if you have that is the only requisite for coming to this medicine. So we definitely get plenty of people that say are atheist or they don't believe in energy and very scientific, a lot of engineers and things like that. And so that's totally okay. And we're not here to convince them of that, but we'll, through this experience for a lot of them, things shift on that level and just realizing how much, energy they have, what, energy from other people or nature. So those things do shift. A good example is, we had a guy here named Bill Atkinson several years ago, and he was one of the original developers for Apple. And so, yeah, very, very scientific engineering mind. And, he came and had a wonderful experience and, didn't, when he came in, didn't believe in spirit and was pretty sure that that's the way it was and left here being connected with spirit and realizing that there is things outside of themselves that are in play and in motion. So that, but otherwise people are absolutely free to come here, and they don't have to believe in anything that we're telling them, as long as they have, the will inside to do better for themselves. That's the whole trick. And when they do that, things will shift down the road for them. And it's all about, if they want to help their life on this earth, that's all that matters.
And the medicine will work with each individual as it should. And I think you have to be open to it, and that's an important step. Do you feel like Iboga has a masculine or a feminine energy to it? Kind of, with ayahuasca, it's very clearly feminine in many ways, which in what that means, it's not necessarily what we think of masculine and feminine on the world's level, right? But I was just wondering, I've never really heard anyone kind of refer to it as mother or father or anything like that, if there was any lean on that subject.
Yeah. So a lot of people in Iboga or Ibogaine community will refer to it as a father, kind of grandfather spirit.
Okay.
But within our tradition, within the Masoko, we know the medicine is both male and female rolled into one. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times that can be presented as masculine energy and very direct answers and being, kind of being stern. But when it needs to be, it can be very gentle and caressing and loving with you. So we see it as both the male and female spirit rolled into one.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I'm always fascinating, just any of those minor details that are actually really big in a way once you get involved with them. But sure. What do you think your point of view is personally on who we are as humans?
Oh man, that's a deep one. We, from us, like we, with the Bwiti, we separate God stuff from human stuff. So we know things outside of ourselves, like the power of nature and God, like just isn't for us to know. What we can know about is things that are happening, within our lives, within the physical realm. We can understand science, but that's a very small part of it. So we really concern ourselves with this life on this earth, because we know, in the Bwiti, we want to know the truth of things, and the truth of things that we can absolutely verify with our senses and know it's true is that we're here right now living this life. So we really concern ourselves with living this life here, but with that said, I was talking about those guided journeys earlier that we do for people. With that, many times people connect with different ancestors, that have passed on. And so people do connect with those ancestors. So there's something happening out there with them. We're not exactly sure, but we do know that, this life here and this experience is everything to us, because if we don't have this life, then nothing's happening for us here. And so, life always comes first for us. If you think about it, you can't even have death without life. So life always comes first. And so, we really focus on our life here.
Yeah, powerful. You cannot have death without life. So that's true. But Levi, I appreciate you having this conversation. I could talk to you forever. Hopefully we'll get to connect in person at some point.
That'd be great.
Did you mention, I feel like maybe in one of our emails you had mentioned something about, were you guys doing a documentary?
Yeah, we are. We're doing one December 13th through 20th. So we have a film producer that had an Iboga experience and really wants to share the medicine out there and just kind of present it for, different problems that people come to Iboga with. And so, we're going to have a very small group here in December. And hopefully, at some point next year, we'll be able to get that out there, because most media out there is either kind of full on Bwiti in Africa or dealing with Ibogaine clinics. So it'll kind of be the first one that's, kind of the middle ground of both of those.
Amazing. And how often are these retreats going at your center?
So typically we have at least 2 per month. So during some months we'll have 3 per month. And so, yeah, they go all year round. And so, yeah, if anybody is interested, we have a schedule on our website, ibogawellness.com. And yeah, there's a schedule and it shows, how many rooms are available. And yeah, if somebody feels called to this.
And I'll put the link in the show notes that everyone can get at heatharmstrong.com/podcast. But if someone wants to contact you directly, is there a phone number or contact on the website? I'm sure also.
Yeah, absolutely. So info@ibogawellness.com. And then there's a toll-free number on the website as well. And so that will forward to my Costa Rican cell phone. And so, most times during business hours, unless we're in the middle of a retreat, I'm able to pick that up. But yeah, if anybody wants more info, we send people a pretty complete retreat overview and what to expect and everything involved to get here.
Levi, I appreciate it, man. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm glad to get back into kickstarting more episodes, especially talking to you, and understanding that bigger direction, right? And the connection that needs to keep progressing and moving forward. And thanks for your overview on self-love and your personal thoughts and just the brilliant experience that you guys have really created for people to come and heal and become versions of their higher selves and affirm a better lifestyle. And yeah, I'm in gratitude to you and look forward to speaking with you in person at some point soon. So
wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much, man, for spreading this medicine and just healing in general. And yeah, I have a feeling we will meet sometime, man. And so yeah, thank you very much.
There's a place called space and it's got the magic. There's a place called space and it's got the balls. There's a place called space and it's got the passion. There's a place called space where we can smash the walls. There's a place called space where we'll face fuck conformity and the chatter of incompetence is slaughtered at birth. In this place called space, we'll build a factory of smiles that will assemble with our minds and sell to earth.
all right, people. How amazing was that? Thanks for making it all the way through. It's in the value of information like this is amazing. It's just like infinite. And if you want to get a hold of Levi, you can go to ibogawellness.com. They also have a toll-free number from within the States. It's 1-844-450-6720. Info@ibogawellness.com. Also their contact information. Todd is out today. He's a little bit sick. He was out partying in the clubs too late. He called me and said something weird about a bathtub and a bunch of baby oil. So I didn't ask him to come in and do the closing on the show, but yeah, heatharmstrong.com/podcast. You can get all the show notes and, yeah, just remember to be mature out there. Self-love. It's the only thing that's important. Aho. Till next time, friends. Bye-bye.